We had just passed Montgomery, Alabama when the rain started. It was one of those short yet strong spring rains that you can see 10 feet in front of you, but you know will pass within 15 minutes. The windshield wipers swung back and forth at full speed, unable to catch up with the rain. All of a sudden, a car driving southbound crossed the grass divider, hitting the car in front of us and instantly killing the driver and 4 18-year-old boys. The second car flew back, hitting and rolling on top of our car, and then everything went black. Now, who would have guessed that angels arrived in red minivans? While sitting still in a daze, I felt a hand grasp mine and pull me from the remains of our car and into the red minivan. In that minivan, there was a family, a man, a woman, and a young boy. My sister and I squeezed into the third row with the young boy. Still in a state of confusion, we watched the remainder of the movie Madagascar with him. The man had covered the car window with a blanket to protect us from the scene, and the faint sound of sirens in the distance grew louder. The memory of the ambulance arriving is still a blur in my mind. It felt like an hour had passed when a man in a dull tan uniform arrived to take my family to the hospital. As my family and I were raised into the ambulance on stretchers, the red minivan pulled back onto the interstate and off they went. Just as suddenly as they arrived, they were gone. We weren't able to thank them or return the favor. Regardless, in our moment of darkness, they did what they could to show us light and compassion. It took me years to truly understand the severity of this event. I think about the pain and the loss the families of the victims must have felt since that day. I think about the doctors and the policemen who had to see the horrific sight and inform loved ones. For the longest time, this thing that happened to me was just a source of sadness. In particular, this past year has really made me think about the sadness and loss of that awful day, because I'm now the same age as those 4 boys. It was spring break of their senior year. They'd probably been accepted into colleges and were planning out their futures. But I also remember the compassion and love offered by the family in the red minivan. For the first time, I was able to see just how impactful they had been. They saw a group of strangers in need and didn't hesitate to show us real compassion. Surely they had somewhere to be, but they stopped, unaware of what they were going to see or how long it would take. They put aside everything to give us what they could, with no intent of receiving anything in return. I want to live like these people. I try to be the kind of person who will drop anything to show someone empathy and be a source of comfort in a dark place, without thinking of what I will get in return. The family in the red minivan were like angels from God in our time of need, and I believe it is my job now to pay it forward. That seems to be the essential message that I've learned from St. Paul's, to love and accept everyone. It's so simple it sounds like something that you would learn in kindergarten, but putting that message into action is not always so easy. Not only has St. Paul served as a constant reminder to treat others with love and compassion, but this community has provided me with the guidance and opportunity to put this message in action in my life. This community has helped teach me what it means to live my life the way that honors and loves every person in God's creation by showing our neighbors empathy without judgment or prejudice. This community has also encouraged me to give strangers the same sense of love and support that I give my friends and family. Of course, it's easy to give unconditional love to those close to you, and it's much harder to give that to strangers. But the family in the red minivan will always remind me that God wants us to love everyone. The essential lesson is simple: to love and accept everyone. There are times that may not be as easy. There are times when God's creatures can be harder to love, but despite my failures to show love to everyone, the foundation of love I've received from this community and the lessons that I've learned will no doubt keep me headed in the right direction. No one is perfect, and it's unreasonable to expect perfection. But I feel comfort in the thought that if I try to live my life if I try to live like the family in the red minivan, by treating others with love and compassion, by being a source of support for someone in need, and by being the best version of myself I can, then I'm living my life the way that God intended. Thank you.
Everyone has a different story in their path with Christ. They are drawn in for different reasons and go through different struggles during their journey. In our gospel reading, we see that even people that lived during Jesus' time and knew him personally still doubted some of the miracles that he performed. Thomas struggled to believe what he couldn't see, but Jesus was still loving. Thomas didn't believe that Jesus had come back, saying, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my finger in the mark of the nails and my hand in his side, I will not believe." When Thomas later did see Jesus and did touch him, only then did he believe that Jesus was back. But it took Jesus' physical being in front of him for him to believe. Thomas' struggle further reveals the great mercy and love Jesus has for all of us. I was raised in a Christian household and went to church almost every Sunday. I attended an Episcopal elementary school. I always considered myself to be a Christian, but I didn't actively believe. I knew I got presents on Easter and Christmas, and I knew that this correlated with the birth and death/resurrection of Christ, but I was way more concerned with Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny than this man who seemed to give me no presents. As middle school hit, I became a lot more stressed with all my math worksheets and paragraphs I had to write. My academics began to rack up, and I poured almost all my time into them. Additionally, I was swimming 6 days a week, and Sunday was the only day I had off. I wanted to sleep in, not wake up early for church. I wanted to hang out with my friends and not go to youth group. I viewed going to church as a chore and just a box to check off that made me a good person. I found myself zoning out and just doodling in the lectionary to kill time. I found church to be a waste of my precious time, and my favorite part was always the snacks right after the service was over. I realized at this point that I didn't really know if I believed in all this Jesus stuff. How was I supposed to know that all of it wasn't just made up? Many of Jesus' miracles seemed impossible. In around 8th grade, my family began coming to St. Paul's. Around the same time, I became involved with Young Life and the youth group here. The service was different than my past church, and I found the physical space to be more beautiful as well. The first Sunday we came, I actually listened to the sermon. I couldn't tell you what the gospel reading was even remotely about, but I remember leaving and deciding I really wanted to dive in and figure out what I believed. I began coming to youth group, and it was actually fun. We talked about Jesus, and it was engaging, and it did not seem like a chore. I grew to be excited about coming every Sunday night. I signed up for the youth ski trip and ended up making a ton of friends. This is when I began to pay attention during the sermon and read along during each of the lessons. I decided that Jesus was someone who was worth my time. I made a choice to actively pursue my faith and take it as a priority. I even took a history of Christianity class at school that further solidified this. While there have been ups and downs in my journey with faith, I found an incredible group of people at church. I often brag that Episcopalians do it best, and I believe that. I have a priest who wore a Georgia Bulldogs hat during a portion of the service following their football national championship win. And I find that the congregation here is always welcoming, and I am lucky to have found such a strong and supportive community at such a young age. As it was said in the second lesson, God is the Alpha and the Omega. He was there for me when I doubted, and he is here with me now that I actively believe. Sometimes life gets busy, and it's easy to push your faith to the back of your mind. Next year, I will be super busy with college and all the new friends and experiences that will be offered to me. It will be easy to skip the early Sunday morning worships, but I will try to attend them. I plan on finding an Episcopal church wherever I end up and joining that community, and I can only hope that that congregation is as welcoming and strong as St. Paul's. Thomas is like all of us. He believed what he could see, but when it came to faith, he struggled. I think we all have struggled with that. Struggles in your faith don't make you a bad person, and they don't make you weak. I found that through my struggles, I've become a lot stronger in my faith. Sometimes your walk with Christ will be more of an off-roading adventure, but this is a community that has individuals that can always help you find your way back to the paved road. It is okay to doubt because doubt can end up making your faith stronger. I think everyone can be the teenager who zones out during a long sermon, but try to draw yourself back in and actively listen because you will end up gaining a lot more, and you never know what small idea could resonate with you and end up strengthening your faith and relationship with Jesus. Thank you.